Hi, this is Grant Sheehan, CEO of NCOFCU, and welcome to the NCOFCU Credit Union Academy podcast, where we explore the unique world of credit unions. Our podcast aims to empower credit union directors, staff, and members by providing valuable insights, expert interviews, practical resources, explicitly tailored for credit unions. Having spent many years serving on a credit union board and leading a credit union as CEO, I've had the opportunity to see governance from both sides of the table. That perspective has given me a deep appreciation for the delicate balance among management, leadership, and board oversight. When that balance works well, credit unions thrive. But when it slowly shifts, often unintentionally, it can create governance weaknesses that regulators and examiners increasingly watch for. In my conversations with governance professionals and through the years of industry experience, one theme keeps emerging. Most governance problems don't begin with bad intentions or misconduct. They begin with boards that gradually become too dependent on management. This is rarely obvious at first glance, but in fact, it often occurs within high-performing organizations over time. Slight patterns can signal when the balance between management and board oversight may be drifting. Today, we are going to discuss 5 of the signs regulators look for. 1. When management becomes the board's primary source of information. Every board relies on management to prepare reports and operational updates. That's normal. But healthy governance usually includes information from multiple sources, including internal audits, supervisory committee audits, external auditors, and independent industry education. When nearly all the information reaching the directors flows through the CEO or executive team, the board may unintentionally lose some of its ability to independently evaluate performance, risk, or strategic direction. Over time, this can create what governance experts call information asymmetry. That's where the management controls most of the narrative the board receives or doesn't receive. Another sign is when board meetings lack engagement. One of the simplest ways examiners gauge board effectiveness is by reviewing meeting minutes. They aren't just looking for votes or approvals, they're looking for signs that directors are actively engaged. If minutes consistently show minimal discussion, few questions, and unanimous decisions with little debate, it can suggest that the board may be relying too heavily on management's recommendations without fully exploring them. Strong boards ask very thoughtful questions. They examine risk. They explore alternatives before approving major decisions. That dialogue isn't conflict. It's called governance. Third sign, when board education is limited or internally controlled. Independent director education is one of the most important tools boards have. Training helps directors understand their fiduciary duties, financial oversight responsibilities, regulatory expectations, and the evolving risks that facing financial institutions. Yet, in some organizations, board education is limited primarily to internal presentations or informed briefings from management. Without external education, directors may not always know which questions to ask or which best practices other institutions are following. Independent learning helps boards maintain the knowledge necessary to fulfill their oversight role efficiently. Another sign is when strategic planning becomes a management presentation. Strategic planning is another area where the balance between the board and management is essential. Management plays a critical role in developing strategy and analyzing market conditions. But the board's role is to challenge assumptions, evaluate risk, and ensure the strategy aligns with the institution's mission and long term sustainability. When strategic plans are presented to the board largely as completed proposals for approval, directors may miss opportunities to shape the organization's direction in meaningful ways. The strongest institutions treat strategic planning as a collaborative process between the board and management, not simply a presentation. Another indication is when management influences board succession planning. Perhaps the slightest governance challenges involved how new directors join the board. Credit unions depend on volunteers, and CEOs often have a very strong relationship within their credit union. It's natural for management to know individuals who might make excellent board members, but board succession should ultimately remain a board-driven process. If management plays too large of a role in identifying or encouraging board candidates, it can unintentionally shape the composition of the board in ways that reduce independence over time. The board's responsibility is to oversee management. Maintaining independence in board recruitment helps preserve that relationship. Now remember, strong governance benefits everyone. It's important to emphasize that strong governance is not about creating tension between the CEO and the board. In fact, the most successful credit unions often have highly collaborative relationships between management and directors. But collaboration works best when both sides clearly understand their roles. Management leads operations. The board provides oversight, guidance, and accountability. When that balance is healthy, it protects members, strengthens strategic decision-making, and supports long-term stability. From my experience on both sides of the table, one observation stands out. The healthiest organizations are often the ones where the CEO occasionally gets challenged by the board. Not because there is conflict, but because the directors are engaged, informed, and fully exercising their governance responsibility. That kind of oversight isn't a threat to leadership. It's one of the greatest strengths a credit union can have. Thank you very much for tuning in, and we hope this session has been beneficial. See you next time. Be safe and keep on moving forward.